If you've clicked on this video, chances are you are A, living in Sweden and trying to navigate the confusing dating scene. B, are dating a Swede and are still confused. C, are neither but are just crazy fascinated by the Swedish culture. Or D, are neither but just want to support me, in which case, thank you. Let me know if you're a D, leave me a comment below. And by the way, if you're not, please make sure to subscribe to the channel to become option D, much appreciated. Or E, my dad, who watches every single video that I put out, even the commercials, to make sure I get paid. Thanks, Dad. If you've picked one of the first three options, you're definitely in the right place. I completely understand why so much of the world is fascinated by Swedes, and I think part of the reason comes down to the fact that they're just very good-looking people. When I first arrived to Stockholm, I was amazed by the amount of very attractive people. It was literally like stepping into Barbie land.
Hi, Barbie!
Hi, Ken! Swedes even look stylish when biking to work. I'd also never encountered such a high concentration of people with blonde hair in my life. Apparently 70 to 80% of Swedes are some shade of blonde. Most also have this incredible porcelain-like skin, which I guess is one of the few benefits that comes with living in northern weather where you have very little exposure to the sun. But what fascinates me about Sweden and Nordic countries in general is that it has such a unique dating scene. Actually, let me rephrase that. Swedes don't date. Really, you may ask? True story, and I'm gonna get into it in length, so stay until the end of the video to find out more. And by the way, if you haven't seen my previous video on Sweden, then please go check it out before watching this video, as I go really deep into the Swedish psychology. I've spent over a year researching the Swedish dating scene, and I've talked to locals and foreigners, got countless interviews and many funny stories. So if you want to go even deeper with it, then you can go ahead and get my book Sex Before Coffee. It is on Amazon, and I believe it's free if you have Kindle. So let's say you arrive to Sweden. You get on a dating app and immediately you are swarmed with just good looking upon good looking upon good looking people, and you think this is perfect, right? But as soon as you start dating, you realize that it is much harder than you had expected. And things are not so straightforward. You start overthinking, is there something wrong with me? The answer is maybe. I mean, I don't know you, but probably not. As mentioned in the last video, Sweden is a country that is incredibly individualistic. In short, it prioritizes the self. Sweden is also a country that is incredibly reserved and lives by the rule of don't inconvenience, don't pry, don't bother. And alcohol tends to act as a lubricant in an otherwise antisocial structure of life. Like the rest of Scandinavia, Sweden is also pretty sexually liberated, which means that casual sex is common. Knowing all of this, I wanted to get a sense of how this has all impacted the Swedish dating scene from the Swedes themselves.
People are too flexible, they don't know what they want. It might be harder to find someone more spontaneously or, without drinking, which is also why the internet dating or Tinder is bigger here.
Generally people meet like on Tinder or out on bars or when they're drunk, exclusively when they're drunk. You start out as buddies or something. It takes a long while, but then slowly but surely you're like, oh, I guess we're together now. And then
how slowly?
It can take a while. It varies, but I know people who've done that for like years.
Is it like a kind of gay mentality here where it's like you meet someone and then they text you and then they disappear and then they text you? Is it like that?
Yeah, it's a lot of games. And it's also a big like hookup culture. Usually the intentions is not to date seriously, but often like one person falls in love and then it's like, I'm always that person.
Maybe people are just interested in meeting a few times and then meet multiple people at the same time, that it gets shallow in a way. So for me, I think it's been hard to really get to some sort of intimacy.
So there's like not first date, second date, third date. It's just like, oh, let's have sex and then keep it casual and then have sex.
Yeah, I think out of my friends, like I don't know anyone who does what you see in American movies where you should show up with flowers and on the first or second date and then you're like, oh, we're boyfriend and girlfriend now.
Why is that?
Emotions.
Yeah, yeah, I guess.
That's definitely the discomfort with it from my perspective.
That's interesting.
It's why you all wait till you're drunk to hook up as well. I'm from Britain. Like, you absolutely can date people, but once you reach a certain level of closeness, it's kind of expected that you'll end up in a relationship, or maybe not a relationship, but kind of an exclusive situation. I had already been in Sweden a year, so I kind of knew that wasn't the case here. I wasn't surprised by your kind of behavior or actions, but it was like frustratingly slow for me.
I have to approach guys and they're like super happy if they get approached, but they will never do it on their own.
Do you want them to approach you? Do you miss them?
Yeah, I mean, Italy, for example, it was just so easy because they wouldn't approach you and be like, hi, I'm interested in you, I want to date you. It would just be like, oh, you like this cocktail? And it doesn't even have to mean that they are hitting on you. It's just like casually talking to someone in the bar. But that's really difficult here because if you approach someone, it's like they're doing it because they like you.
Sometimes they don't want to like admit that they like you.
Yeah,
They cool, like
yeah, they just
they want
watching
you
it
to chase
from the
them.
other side of the room.
Play the game.
Yeah, they play games, and I guess that the women do it also.
We discussed that we're not gonna do that anymore. Yeah. We're gonna go for it.
The women just go for the coup, like wolves. Just the game.
For me in Netherlands, it was more like the guys can take initiatives and have plans, and here people try to act cool or something. No, I'm waiting for her to take the step.
We'd heard that like Swedes like all hook up on nights out and whatever, and me and my international friends on nights out would be like, no one even looks at us. Like we get absolutely no attention, there's no one staring at us or offering to buy us a drink at a bar or like none of that. So for a while we were just like, oh my god, like we've come to Sweden, no one fancies us, like there's no hope, we're clearly not going to be able to date here. And then we made some Swedish friends, started talking to them, and they were like, oh no, like you have to approach men. Like they're not gonna come up to you, you have to kind of take more of the initiative and make the first move, which was completely alien, but it was actually quite like empowering and liberating. But yeah, we had this like ongoing joke for like the first 2 months with the group of internationals I was friends with, that Swedes had some kind of like mating call that they did in bars and clubs, because you dancing next to people, you turn around a second later and they'd be kissing and you're like, how? They haven't even looked at each other.
You don't want to be or perceived as too pushy or like come on too strong or like make someone uncomfortable.
То эти отношения чуть именно серьезные тяжелее найти, мне кажется, потому что именно такой высокий фокус в индивидуальности, который имеет, естественно, огромные свои собственные преимущества, но, опять же, возникает проблема с постройкой более долгосрочных отношений.
Хотя какой-то был опыт с мужчинами шведскими?
Если честно, то очень плохой. Они обычно, они не подходят, они не разговаривают, с ним пытаешься говорить, они как-то, не знаю, никак.
I believe that people might be searching for a soulmate, but emotionally afraid of being rejected. You might pretend that I just want to hang out for a moment and leave. Yeah, because you're scared. Open up.
It's like, yeah, we did this and this and this, had all these dates, had sex, did all these things, but then still it's like, it's not a relationship. This is a so classical situation here.
In your mind, the dating process might go something like, we meet for drinks, there is a spark, we meet again and kiss. We meet again for dinner and maybe do more than kiss. We do that a few times and voila, we're in a relationship. In 2023, the process might not be so linear and might involve more ghosting, but you get the drill. Well, dating in Sweden doesn't exactly play out like that. Here it's, you go out and maybe have sex. If that was good, you have more sex in a week or two. This keeps going for a few months or years with some additions, like maybe a fika, a dinner, and eventually, you are together or not. By the way, your situation with your partner might be different. If so, please let me know in the comments, as I love reading your stories. Dating in Sweden is quite a recent phenomenon that came about with the arrival of dating apps. So it isn't that surprising that there isn't much of a dating culture per se. Sweden is also one of the most gender equal countries in the world. According to EIGE, it ranks at 83.9 out of 100 points, which is 15.3 points above the EU score. Even Denmark, which is also in Scandinavia, ranks at 77.8. All of this means that you have a nation of incredibly individualistic, very self-sufficient, and highly gender equal people, which in itself is a positive. But it has also largely impacted the dating scene. The individualistic nature of the Swedes has largely resulted in the dating scene that can be best described as commitment-phobic, especially in a bigger city like Stockholm. We all know the drill with the arrival of dating apps. The endless amount of choice and the prevalence of casual sex has resulted in this endless pursuit of the next best thing, with so many of us scared to commit. Well, Sweden is right up there with that mentality. The Swedes are also uncomfortable around displays of emotion, so there's a real fear around being vulnerable or openly saying what you want. You've also now just heard the Swedish women complain about the passive nature of Swedish men. Again, we've seen that shift in the Western world, with men refraining from making the first move for fear of being turned down or being labeled a creep. And Sweden is a prime example example of this. Men are raised from childhood to see dominance and being a macho man as something to be avoided. Chatting women up, at least sober, is discouraged in Sweden. So it's no surprise that men don't approach women until they are so drunk that all the barriers go down. I wanted to get a sense of how the Swedes perceive this. Did the women secretly want the men to step it up, pay the bill, open the door, and do all that gallant kind of stuff? Or did they want to get treated as equals? Let me pay the drink kind of thing and get the hell away while I do that. Well, the answers surprised me. Who, in your opinion, should pay on the first date?
I pay for my thing and my date pay for their things.
Split it?
Yeah. I mean, if I just have a coffee, I'm just gonna pay for my coffee, and then after I buy my coffee, they're gonna do their order.
I want to be independent, and I can't pay for myself, but it's nice if he's like offering. It's a good sign.
Yeah, they know that we want them to. Exactly. But they are also like, well, we don't have to.
We both do the same thing, we both work, both have money. It's not like we have to, no one has to give me stuff the first time we meet, and it shouldn't be, and I don't have to do it as well.
Would you be okay with a woman paying for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's nice if people wanna, it's like a little gift.
What if the girl is, I mean, you're really attracted to her, but she like kind of expects you to pay for the first date? What's your
Personally, I don't think I would be in that situation, because I don't think that would be my kind of person. If I liked the date, or if it was the second date, I would probably pay for the beer, because I like paying for stuff. It's just like, but it doesn't have anything to do with me being a man.
Because you're kind of preserving old gender norm, I guess, where the man is taking care of the woman and the woman is somehow inferior, or the man is providing and the woman's not working, or something like the old-fashioned kind of. I think we strive to be, or try to be, more equal, where women work as much as men and should earn as much as men. They don't, but they should.
When we start dating, if I expected to pay everything the first date, she would probably be like, why?
Yeah.
Why are you doing that?
We also have a thing called Swish, which is like you very, very easily swish money to another person.
If the guy comes up to you in a bar and says, "Can I buy you a drink?" What's your reaction to that?
If I'm not interested in talking with a guy, I say no thanks. But if I find a guy, I don't know, cute, or I have some sort of interest in talking to him, then I say yes thanks. So I don't want to take a drink and then not hang out with that person or feel obligated to hang out.
For me, since I grew up here, when someone opens the door, it's like I will like laugh. For me, it's like strange.
Things like carrying bags, and like she's like wanting to carry all kinds of bags all the time. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, just give it to me, you know. And we have these like sort of funny conversations about this, which is trivial, but I see how it runs deep. And it's like, no, I want to feel like I'm able to do this. Like I'm capable of being able to, like, being fully independent. She likes to feel feminine. As long as I do that in a way that is not forced, then she loves it. But if it feels like it's forced, like, I'm going to pay for this to prove that I'm the man, I mean, that's a won't stick. And I think there is quite a strong integrity there around like feminism in that respect.
I'll take the next one, maybe.
Yeah, always that.
Always the next one you have to do. Okay.
I mean, I like when men are gentlemen, so
you take the food.
I take,
and they take the bill.
Exactly.
I'm not one of those girls who are like, oh, I offer to split the bill, but whatever. No, if the guy isn't paying, I'll split, absolutely, but I'm not going on it.
How do you feel about like the Swedish mentality around that? Because it's not a thing here for the
No, it's not. Women think that if they want to be equal, they have to offer to pay for their half. I think we're absolutely equal. We are both necessary for everything, but we don't have the same characteristics or the exact identical type of equality.
But there was this one experience that I had which was super funny. I could see that this girl was taking the lead, and she's like, yeah, you should come and meet me tonight and we can take a drink.
Yeah, boy.
She took me back to this big fancy apartment, this huge loft apartment, like super swanky. It's like she opened the bottle of champagne, I was like, and then she just, exactly, and then she just kicked me out the next day.
You felt like a piece of meat.
Exactly, it was so funny.
It was kind of interesting traveling Europe with a big luggage. Horrible, but interesting. I got to assess cultures from the standpoint of who would offer me a hand. And when I was in Poland, I had so many men offering to carry my luggage. Sweden was a different story. I would lunge my luggage up enormous stairs with no offer of help from any of the men that were passing me by. And there were at some point quite a lot of men around me. But knowing the culture, it didn't surprise me much. I mean, after all, Sweden is all about self-sufficiency and gender equality. Maybe they had assumed that as a woman, I would get offended at the thought that I was too weak to carry the luggage myself. And by the way, I am too weak, so if you ever see me lunging luggage up a set of stairs, please offer to help me. I would really appreciate it. What's interesting is that compared to some of the other cultures, Swedish men don't find the girly girl thing attractive. In fact, when asked, most of them said they would prefer someone who is self-sufficient and independent. They want an equal partner, not a damsel in distress. What's interesting noting is I haven't seen as many men with prams, kangaroo pouches, or simply playing in the park with kids as I have in Sweden. I remember getting out of the metro my first day in Stockholm and seeing this Thor lookalike with a kangaroo pouch that had a baby in it. I swear, he was strutting down that street like he was a Scandinavian model, but he was also a father. It was such an interesting and stark contrast, and I wish I had a camera to record it. There's also a term called Latte Pappas, of very good looking but attentive Swedish men that spend their days lunging around in cafes with their babies wearing designer clothes. And it's not so surprising considering Swedish men are practically encouraged to take paternity leaves. So I wanted to get a sense of how this all relates to first dates. What do Swedes consider a great date and what just wouldn't fly here? What is like a typical date here?
I never think I've been to a date that isn't like having a beer together. Alcohol is involved and it's quite like relaxed.
Just get drunk and just have fun.
That's the perfect first date.
Yes.
I don't know, I just want to laugh.
Yeah, actually.
Something very casual. It can be a walk, coffee, or just go out and have a drink together. Something simple just to get to know each other.
Like really casual and like something that you can actually like kind of run away from if you want. Absolutely not dinner. I mean, I cannot think of any friend like in my head right now that have told me that they've been on a first date eating dinner. No.
Yeah, going to like a dinner, that's weird.
That's probably the
Don't
third
do that.
date.
Let's save that moment for later on when we're probably gonna enjoy it. Casual dinner is still like very expensive, so it's kind of weird to do that with a date.
I'm sure you grew up with the Hollywood movies of the man picks the woman up, he pays for her, pulls out the chair. Do you wish it was more like that?
Yeah. I like that. If I had to choose like either like this or like this, the extreme way, something in between. No. Lagom.
Swedes tend to go for a casual hangout until they're deep in a relationship. Then dinner dates might become more of a thing. Even if you're asking someone out, refrain from making it a big deal. Don't do the whole, would you like to go out with me on Friday at 7 p.m. Instead, offer it as a kind of chill hangout. Hey, I'm heading to a bar, do you wanna join me? This kind of invitation offers way less pressure and way less of a commitment, and also an easier getaway. In many other countries, men have to work hard to get into bed with a woman. Whining her, dining her, complimenting her, saying anything and everything to get her into bed. Sweden is a great example of a country where women majorly call the shots. In general, there's way less stigma attached to women who want to have sex with whomever and whenever they want. Scandinavia is a sexually liberated place. Sex is seen as a healthy and natural way of life. It's taught from childhood with images of dancing penises and dancing vaginas, and I'm sure there's more, but that video unfortunately is forever stuck with me. Swedes start having sex on average at 16 years of age. However, looking through Reddit, I've seen numbers like 14 and 15 pop up quite a lot. So in general, we can say that Swedes start their sexual life quite early. However, a lot of sex, especially for people in their teens and 20s, happens when drunk, which means that casual hookups are incredibly common. So, how does this casual sex culture affect the Swedes?
Но они более открыты в этом плане.
Мне кажется, они очень открытые, потому что те истории, которые я слышу, прям
I think it's pretty smart anyway, because it's nice with sex, hopefully, and if it's not, then why would you want to be with that person? Then it's a waste of time.
I don't know, maybe I'm old and out of touch now, but there was like less expectation of sex on a first date in the UK, whereas Sweden it would be like a given. If we're at a bar, it'd very much be like, oh, do you want to head over to mine?
I think you usually meet first and make sure neither is a
you
serial
make
killer,
sure,
and
yeah,
then
exactly. Which is, it's not like unheard of in the UK either. Like if a good date goes really well, absolutely one or both of you might want to go home afterwards, but it's less an expectation and it's more like, oh, maybe I will. Whereas here it was like, well, of course, if you're going on a date, as long as nothing goes horribly wrong, you'll probably end up having sex.
It's not just like casual relationships, it's just like a general casualness about sex. Things are not that big of a deal. It's like a social experiment gone wrong a little bit, this whole like empowerment, do what you want, la la. It seems like such a good idea and it's like liberating and it's freeing, and it is, but there's also like the backside, which is kind of also the things that we've been talking about, like the lack of commitment. It can also lead to many people being unhappy or getting stuck in this thing because it also becomes the new norm. I would say that men have problems with this with women as well, so they also have problems finding women that wants to commit. So it's not just the other way around.
We just move straight ahead to, in one line, to sex, but we want a whole atmosphere around it, and that is missing right now in the society and how we date.
All women want some romance, right?
Exactly.
Swedish culture is all about the freedom of choice. We know that in 2023, getting married is quickly getting phased out in most of the Western world, and Sweden is no exception. Most Swedes choose common law partnership, which they call Sambo. A lot of Swedes are also Sarbo, which means that they're dating but living apart. No matter which relationship you choose, it's all good. No one is here to judge you. Many people never get married and live as Sambos their whole life. Other people only get married when one or even two of their kids grow up. If you'd read my book, there's a great story of a friend of mine who was dating a guy. One day she asked him, "Hey, when are you planning to get married?" To which he said, "Well, when you have my kids, and then I see that you're a good mother to my children, then we can get married." Here, it's all about testing it out long term before making any kind of commitment. That is not to say that marriage is out. But on the whole, there's just way less economical and legal incentives to get married, and divorce is seen as a solution rather than a problem. Women don't need men's money to survive and won't be ostracized for getting a divorce. If something is broke, fix it. Dust yourself off and try again.
Living together here is called what?
Sambo.
Sambo. So you're Sambos?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Do you guys want to get married or?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is not news.
No, I do, but more excited for that than you are. You're more just like, oh, okay, marriage is important to you, cool,
Yeah.
I can go along with that. Whereas I'm like, if we want kids, I want to get married, which even by UK standards is a very like old-fashioned view.
We now have a record of you saying that.
Yeah.
Do you want to get married?
Maybe.
Maybe. It doesn't matter, I think.
I think I want to. I'm not sure.
I don't think it's as big of a thing, or it doesn't seem like it's more of a, oh, let's get married, or like it doesn't have to be this huge traditional.
It's like a celebration, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you had a little dream about it because of Disney, like you saw Disney when you were little, but it's not like something so strong in the culture, and you can be very committed and live together and have children without being married your whole life.
Swedish dating scene has seemed quite unique to me at the time that I was writing the book, but fast forward a few years and it seems that most of the Western world is heading the same way, fast. While I love the freedom that we now have to have as much sex as we want, or to choose the kind of commitment that works for us and not the kind of commitment that the society tells us we should choose, and to do it at an age that we want, I feel that we in the Western society are getting more lost than ever. In this buffet of choice, it's getting harder and harder to enjoy the food that's right in front of us, rather than visualize all the ways that we could enjoy that endless supply of food that's waiting just there. It's getting harder for people to commit and to stay committed. We scratch the surface with many people, but we struggle to go deep with one. And the self comes first, but we are less and less likely to compromise. It is no wonder that we are more lost and confused than ever before. It wasn't my goal to end this video on such a somber note. As you know, I make lighthearted videos, but I do feel that the world really needs to hear this. Unless we change the way that we relate to each other, we are gonna keep going down the same slippery slope. If you can relate, let me know in the comments below, what in your opinion can we do to create more deep and meaningful connections, to stop judging each other so fast and so superficially. I would love to hear your thoughts. And I will see you guys next week with a new video. Don't lose faith and keep breaking down your barriers.